Greetings everyone and welcome to this Introduction to PHP MySQL crash course. This course is specifically designed for the beginners. Um, you will learn basics of PHP and SQL. Eventually, you will be able to develop your own dynamic website. I assume you already know HTML and CSS. We will use them for basic form creation and table creation. I will also give you an overview of Bootstrap forms and Bootstrap tables. Bootstrap is basically a CSS framework. In order to get started, you firstly need to install a text editor if you don't have it already, and a server. I will be using WAMP server throughout the course. I will share the download link for both text editor and WAMP server in the video description. Let's create our first Hello World application. Once the WAMP server is installed, you will see a new folder WAMP64 created in your Windows repository, and this WAMP64 will have another folder with the name www. All our PHP projects will go in this www folder. So I created a folder already with the name PHP CRUD. We will be working here in this repository. So I just opened this um, project in my text editor. Since it's a new project, there are no files. We firstly have to create a new index file, new PHP file. Let's name it index.php. Make sure the file extension is PHP. Starting tags and PHP ending tags and everything, every PHP code will go between these two starting and ending tags. Just let's echo hello world. So now in order to run this script or this PHP file in our web browser, we firstly have to run the server, the WAMP server that we installed at the first place. So you just have to look for it in your installed application and click on it. You will see a new icon in your taskbar. So once the icon is turned green, that means all the services are now running. You can access this page or this project using your web browser. So let's take a look. Localhost slash phpcrud, and you can see the hello world here. So let's make another change just to see if the change is reflected into the browser or into the application. And now if you run it, you will see the changes in your web browser. Let's now create a HTML input form where we will take the information, for example, student's first name, last name, and address, and save it into the database using PHP. So let's create the basic form. Okay, we have created a basic HTML form where we are taking first name, last name, and address as an input, and then there is a submit button to save information into the database. Let's take a look at form. So this is how it looks like. Now we have to create a database for student information. Let's name it to student information system SIS. You have to access phpMyAdmin like this localhost slash phpMyAdmin, and this default page will open where you have to click on database, import database name, that is student information system in our case, created. We have to now create columns. Sorry, firstly we have to create tables. So the first table name is student, and it will have four columns. First column is ID, that is auto incremental, that makes it a primary key. Then we have first name, last name, and address, and these fields are varchar. Now we have to specify length. Let's set it 20 for first name, 20 for last name, and 50 for the address. In order to make them nullable, just click here, otherwise you can save it. Now if you go to the structure, you see there's a key with the ID that makes it a primary key, and then we have first name, last name, and address. Now if we go back to our application, we will see first name, last name, and address in form. So let's specify the action in our form and method, of course. It's a post method, and action is create student.php. That means we have to create a new PHP file with this name, file name. So let's create it. And in this PHP file, we have to receive the um, post request that is initially posted or initiated from index.php. We will create a PHP variable. First name is equal to dollar underscore post first underscore name. Same goes for last name and address. Now we will echo uh, these variables. First name, let's concatenate it. Last name and address. We can see the information posted. Before we save this information in database, I would like to give this form a little style. Now for that purpose, I will use Bootstrap. I will share the CDN link in description as well. So you just have to put that link here, and then for every input field you just have to specify a class, that is form control. You can copy it and paste for other input type. For submit button, you can set button class. Let's take a look. Okay, we have to specify the width. Okay, it looks better now. Let's add some more styling to this form so that uh, we can display the form and the table that we will create to show or display information from database side by side. Alright, so this is how our form and table look like side by side. So now we have to save this information into the database. Therefore, we have to create a connection between our application and the database that is available on our local server. So in order to do that, we have to create a new file with the name connection.php, and in this file we will create a connection. $con is equal to mysqli underscore connect. Firstly specify the server name, that is localhost in our case, and then the username, that is root, and then the password. We don't have any password for this particular database, and then the database name, that is SIS. Now let's check if the connection is successfully established. Otherwise, it will give an exception like failed to connect to MySQL, and some internal connection error will pop up on your screen. So let's now write a query to insert students into the student table. First of all, you have to include the connection file in this create student.php, and then we have to create the insert query. So let's say $query is equal to student is the table name, and we will specify the columns here. uh, First name, last name and address, then values, first name, last name and address. All right. uh, Now we have to run the query, specify connection, and then your query string. Let's try it out now. Let's save it, and we have to go to our database, and if we browse it we can see the data here. So far we have covered how to make a basic form and pass data from form to the PHP file, where we will actually process the data and will add or insert it into the database table. Then we created a connection between the application and the server, and here we are. We successfully inserted or added or created a student in our student table for SIS database. Let's now display the information or data from our database table to the front end. We already created a table here. We just have to use or create a select query on top of this table, and then we will fetch the information or columns from the database table and show them in this table. So let's get started. Make sure whenever you're going to write PHP code within your uh, along with your HTML code, you have to explicitly start and close the PHP tags. We also have to include the connection file just like we added it here in create student.php. Just copy that and paste it here. This MySQLi fetch array is basically is a function that fetches a result row as an associative array, or numeric, or both in some cases. Similarly, we will echo last name and address. It is actually getting information from our database table, student table. So let's now create another column like first name, last name, address, and another column with the name actions, where we will give a facility or option to user to delete or update the present information, because we have to cover the CRUD operations. So far we have covered the create part and the read part, as you can see. Let's create another column. For update, we will create a new PHP page with the name update student, and we will pass it the student ID like this. And same goes for the delete action. Student.php will create this new page, and ID is equal to, okay, in update student.php we will see if we can get the ID from the URL, since it's a get request. So let's check. Okay, if I press the update, I must be able to see Tommy ID, and if I press this update, I must be able to see the Jack ID. Okay, I'm not seeing anything. That means, okay, I think we have to echo it. Yes, super. So we can see we can now get the ID for update action and for each student. Now we have to implement same logic for the delete action. We will create a new page, delete student, and for now just simply copy paste this code here. Alright, so one thing is sure, we are getting the right ID for the right student. Now we have to just perform the action, for example, delete or update. Let's get started with the update action first. We will use the same form that we created for index.php. We will use it in update student.php because we need a form, but the difference is the fields must be populated with the right information. So let's copy it and we will paste it here. We will remove this table because we don't need it here, and we will create a new query on top of the form. Again, we firstly have to include uh, the connection PHP, and now uh, we will catch the ID from the URL. Student ID is equal to dollar. So here we are catching the ID or getting the ID from the URL. Now we will filter this particular student. We have to get all the records for this particular student from the database. MySQL underscore select all from student, where ID is equal to ID. Now we will set value for first name to dollar first name, that is coming from database. Let's take a look at the front end. Okay, now if I press update for Tommy, I am seeing all of his information coming from the database, and if I click on Jack, I'm seeing his information. All right, so we can now do any changes in the information. For example, if you want to change the address or anything uh, among these three fields, you can do that and just press the update button. Let's rename it to update. And we also have to create a new PHP file, uh, update. In this file, we will also get the data from updatestudent.php because it's a post method. So we will capture the information just like we did in createstudent.php. So we can copy lines and paste them here. Now, instead of insert query, because that is used to create a new record, we have to use the update query. Okay, now we have to pass the ID from updatestudent.php to this file because we have to apply the where clause. For this purpose, we have to, what I will do is I will create a new hidden field here and set the value of that field to ID of the row or the student. And we also have to declare the student ID. Okay, now we are getting first name, last name, address, and student ID from student table based on a particular student, and then we are setting this information in our form. Now we can set a name to this hidden field. Let's call it ID. Okay, let's now run the application. And what if I want to change the address to, let's say, LA? We press update, and if we go back and refresh it, the address has been changed. And if we go back to our initial form and the table and refresh it here, the address is changed. So if we let's change address for this one, and if we go back, we can see the updated information everywhere. And now let's add a redirect when you change any information here and press update button, it must redirect us back to the home page. Maybe you just have to simply copy this piece of code and paste it here. Now every time you do a change, you will be redirected back to the home page. We have covered create, read, and update. Now it's time to delete a record. So in order to do that, we simply the file we created, I think we have to, yes, this is the file that we created for delete student.php, and this id we are getting it uh, from this code. Now we simply store this id in a variable, and we just apply the delete query. Again, we have to include the connection file here. Delete student where id is equal to student id, and we need to redirect it back to the home page. It's actually delete from, so if I delete this one, I can successfully delete it. Let's create a new record, this one, and update it and delete it. So now you must be able to create a basic CRUD application using PHP. You can simply create a new HTML form to take input from user. It could be a student registration form, pizza ordering form, or anything. You will save that information into database, and then you can show that information right in front of the user using your HTML tables and the select query. Then you know how to update the information, how to update any existing record, and how to delete any existing record. I hope you like this video. Thank you. Bye.